guys.
Oh, wonderful.
Let me start the recording.
Greetings. Okay, I'm settled.
We are recording. Greetings everybody. Greetings. Welcome to another INHEALING Sunday session. My name is Nkosi Ujamini Islublaza Leskanobamba Intombi yaselangeni ezalwa unamashinini. Yes, we are back. Today I'm joined by Brother Menzi as per usual. Angangedwa ngibamba naye Brother Menzi, uMenzi Maseko uncamani. Ngiphinde futhi ngihambe noNancy Buledi Monya. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Please do not come for me. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Yes. So we are joined by Nancy as well, who will be speaking very shortly. But before we kick off the session, I just wanted us to start our session with centering ourselves with the breathing meditation, as well as reading out the pledge. And once we have done that, Brother Menzi and Nancy will be taking us through the discussions for the day. So with the breathing meditation, you could be seated, you could be seated, you could be standing, it's good with me. So don't mind the background sound. There's another person here who decided to appoint themselves as a co-host. I'm not sure how, but they've decided to appoint themselves as a co-host. So don't mind the additional sound at the background. Okay, so we start off with the breathing meditation by taking it in a deep breath. Holding it. When you hold in, you suck in all the good energies. Let the sun rays kiss you if you are outside. Take in all the good vibes, the positivities. Allow yourself to take in all the spirit of learning. And then you breathe out. And as you breathe out, you're releasing all the tension, you're releasing all the negativity, you're releasing all the bad energies that may be within your vicinity. I'd like you to take another deep breath in, inviting your ancestors, your angels, and your guides, and then releasing everything that is not aligned with who you are. I'd like you to take another deep breath in, the last in. As you take it in, allow yourself to be able to request that you are able to absorb the energy, the learning, and that the conversations flow, request that everything you just take it all in, and then you release. Okay, so I'm going to open up the pledge, and those who are able to can unmic and decide. Beloveds, are you there?
I am here.
I
But
don't know
Brother
what just
Menzi,
happened.
yeah, I'm here, but I don't think Brother Menzi is still here.
Okay, because I was kicked out of the meeting. I don't know, like the devil is working overtime today. Like I can't even say the devil because you don't subscribe to that.
It's
Satan
very
is working.
strange because my connection is really good. It's never good in China, but it's good today. It is never good. It's quite strange.
Oh man, I'm trying to get Brother Menzi back.
Recording.
Okay, cool. When did I get kicked off? At which point? I'm trying to establish when I got kicked out.
You were about to start the pledge. You were actually just saying that when you got kicked out.
Okay. Are you able to see the pledge? Apologies, guys.
Yes, I can see clearly.
Okay. So everybody who is here, I would like everybody to unmute and then we recite the pledge. The pledge is basically, for those who are new, it's basically a way to remind ourselves why we're here, and so that we do not deviate from the reasons why we are here, and that we treat each other with respect, and we treat what our ancestors and what Umfedinqake has given us to us with respect as well. So the pledge goes like this. I will recite first, and then everybody, you can recite after me. You can repeat after me. It's really a code of conduct for the group. And Ikhambi natural healing. Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
We owe our gifts to nature, our ancestors, and our creator.
We owe our gifts to nature, our ancestors, and our creator.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, and Ubuntu.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, and Ubuntu.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will neither insult, dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will neither insult, dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will share, practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing, healthy lifestyles, and well-being.
We will share, practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing, healthy lifestyles, and well-being.
Refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information and falsehoods.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information and falsehoods.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity and nature.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity and nature.
We will give back to nature what it has abundantly given us.
We will give back to nature what it has abundantly given to us.
Amank. Yes, we are back. Yes, we are back. We're gonna as we wait for Brother Menzi, I think it's gonna be just easier for Sister Nancy to take us through who she is as the honored guest today. Yes. Sister Nancy, tell us who are you? I could feel
Ungubani.
Yes, Ungubani. Earlier on, we had discussed that you're from Limpopo. Tell us about that. And yeah.
Yes, so my name is Nancy Boledi Kenaramaiselemunya. So I am from Limpopo, Mafefe, a small village called Ramampa. And what else about my background? I am a daughter to Punadi and Selime, and I am the third child of 4. And I currently live in China. I'm a language teacher, literature teacher. I'm also a certified Kemetic yoga teacher, recently certified. And also I call myself a student of nature. I am one of those people who find interest in a lot of different spiritual paths, or I am called to a lot of different ways, and I go through different stages of learning each one of them. I am currently focused on Kemetic spiritual systems as well as Qigong practices, mainly found in China or Asia in general, which is more focused on the cultivation of energy and understanding how do you move energy and how do we use that for healing, self-healing and healing others. And I'm a published writer as well of an autobiography called Negotiations with Death. And I think that is what we will be touching on today. What else? Oh, and I'm a mother to a 6-year-old. I'm a wife, and my family and I currently live in the south of China in Shenzhen.
Wow.
I think that's a mouthful.
It is, but you know what, we love it. We love it. And you know, there's quite a lot that I wanted to ask you about in relations to that. So before we get into the book, your book, which is the center of the discussions for today, I just wanted us to can you just explain to us what's the different practices that you just mentioned that you do in terms of similarities and differences? Because I know that when I was in the Middle East, in as much as things they did things differently. I mean, it was a Muslim state, but I could see similarities. Before they did anything, they lit incense. Before they did anything in terms of prayers and whatnot, they bachuma mollo. It might not be in the same way or whatnot, but bachuma mollo, when they start doing stuff, there has to be a fire that is sparked either to illuminate or to provide some form of smoke. What are some of the differences or similarities that threw you back when you looked at some of these cultural practices, especially ones from China that you noticed and you're like, interesting?
So I've actually noticed that it is one path, just one, but it has different trajectories or streets, because with everything that I have been learning, I'm realizing I'm learning the same thing, but in different ways. The differences is the cultural connotations to it. So in China, whenever I'm studying either Qigong or Taoism, because I have texts that are based on Taoism, whenever I study those, I feel the same way I do when I go through understanding the Sangoma trainings and initiations. It's the very same thing. And also the Kemetic spiritual principles, same thing. The difference is the culture. We use terms that are cultural to us. And in Asia as well, they use terms that are cultural to them. Like you said, with the practices, we light incense. We have to have fire before we start any practice we do. We have to have water on our altars or our shrines, and we have to have a representation of earth. It could be a plant, it could be tobacco, it could be the earth itself. They do the same things. And here, for example, with Taoism, the practice is of acknowledging the 4 corners of the earth, or the 4 corners as we know them, which are represented by the elements. We know them as 4, they know them as 5. And the same thing with, when we are greeting, when we start, they use the same thing. They create sound. They might not use their hands, but they might use the singing bowl, or they might use a bell. It's the same practices, but going beyond the cultural aspects, it's the same thing. I'm finding that I'm interested in different paths, but I'm learning one and the same thing over It's quite fascinating. And I think it's the thread that connects all of us as humanity. I'm realizing there isn't a difference. It's just
We need
culture.
to do a session on that. Same, but different. We need to do a session on that. Brother Menzi is now connected. He apologizes. He got cut off due to load shedding issues. I got cut off when my power came back on. Yeah. ESCOM is doing the most. It's doing the most. Like, even if you take yourself off the grid, you still use the same network. Yeah. Brother Menzi, are you able to begin? Because we have done the introductions. We can start. You can kick off the discussions about the book in particular. Brother Menzi says network is working for a set.
Hello, Nancy.
Are you able to hear Brother Menzi?
No, I can't
He's
hear him.
He's breaking on my side.
Yes, I can't hear anything.
No, we can't hear Brother Menzi. Can you tell us about your book? First let's discuss the title. Like, it's a very interesting title. What inspired that? What inspired that?
Yeah, so the book is, I actually have a copy here, Negotiations with Death, and
wait,
there's the cover of the book.
Wait, I want to spotlight you. Wait.
I'm not sure if it's clear.
You're now spotlighted for everybody. Negotiations.
Yeah. So this is the book. It's kind of a mirror, but it's Negotiations with Death. And it says here, on the dance floor with death. And a lot of people do wonder why this title. It's morbid. People think death is a morbid topic. But for me, experience with death was the beginning of my life. It was the beginning of who I am today. Because I went through certain situations in life that brought death right to my face. The fear, I would say I never had the fear of death. I can't see a way, I don't know where I'm going, so what's there to be scared of? But the experience of losing those that are close to you, losing your beloved, was quite a very interesting experience, because initially it was something that I couldn't accept. I couldn't accept what was happening to me. I lost 2 children before I had my 3rd child, and I repeated the same experiences. I would know they will come early, and I will know they will leave, but I didn't understand, why am I going through this? Why do I even see it? To go through something unawares, unconsciously, you are in oblivion. So you're not aware of what's actually happening. It can hurt, but then you move on, it's part of life. But for me, I would see that my children will come early, and I would spend 2 to 3 months wondering, what can I do to stop it? And somehow nobody could do anything about it. Hospitals couldn't find what was wrong. And everybody just told me, pray. I was a staunch Christian at the time. Just pray, it's not going to happen, and I kept doing that. But it will happen exactly as I saw it. I'll have visions about something happening, and it will happen. And I broke down. I think when you lose your first child, or you lose your first loved one, something in you breaks because you don't understand. But the second time, I lost the sense of who I was, because I saw it, it happened. I see it. It happens again. Now I needed to understand what was happening. And the third time, I repeated the same process where I saw it, but I knew this one will not die. She will survive. But how the survival will happen, I had no idea. When I lost my second child, I personally came close to death. I experienced what people would consider near-death experience. I didn't know that's what it was. All I remember was the desire to leave my body. Very, very strong desire. I didn't need anything to help me leave. I just decided I'm going to leave now, and I just stopped breathing. And it was my mom who actually kept bringing me back. She would be pulling my toes, like literally pulling my toes, and like tapping me and telling me to come back. And her voice will be so far away, but he kept calling me back, and I'll come back. But hospital, being at home, I was actually had to be assigned somebody to watch me as I slept, because I would just decide I'm not gonna breathe, and I'll stop breathing, and then I'll say, okay, I'm gonna leave, because I just didn't want to be in this body. It was hurting. I didn't understand what I was doing. All I knew was there was this deep desire for me to leave the body because the pain will stop. And with my third child, I saw how she will be born. I got admitted, and I was a mad woman in the hospital. I was crazy. I was telling them, I know what's happening. You will not stop me. I know this child is going to come early. I know why the child is coming ill. I know what my body is doing, but I don't know why my body is doing it. So you are going to be tasked with helping me keep this child. Of course, I was very young. Everybody thought I was crazy, but I was lucky enough to have those who listened to me, and I was put on bed rest. My head was upside down, my legs were up, but I didn't care, because I knew that's what I needed to do to save this one life that is choosing to stay. And that is where everything changed for me, from being a very religious person to being a person who was mad at the Creator. I was raving mad in the hospital. I was in pain. I was nearly torn to pieces, I would say. And when she was born early as well, like all the others, but she was breathing because of the precautions that were taken earlier. I had steroids, I had different medication to help the child longer, and also during childbirth to make sure she develops much quicker. But being in hospital for 3 months, where she spent 1 month on life support, it brought the experience of death closer even, but on a different way. I have experienced losing my kids. I experienced leaving, like I'm just gonna leave this body. But now I was experiencing looking at this tiny life in front of me, and death saying to me, I'm gonna take. And I had to choose. Do I fight to keep this life here, or do I allow death to take? And what do I stand to gain by allowing death to do what it's come to do? And that is when I decided I will face to face with the Creator. At the time, being a Christian, I was like, I'm going to go face to face with God. I will not have any intermediaries. I will face you. You're going to tell me, why are you doing this to me? I was mad. I was an angry woman. And, you know, the people I shared my word with, they would look at me like, what's wrong with her? Because whenever I would pray, I'll say, you're going to tell me. You will show me why you are doing this. I don't want anybody else telling me. Show me why you are bringing death to me. And my daughter was on life support for 23 days. And they had told me, prepare to switch off the machine, because there's just no way. And the next morning of my mad prayer, me crying and saying, you are going to show yourself to me. There is no other way. And I went to the ward, and they said, we have one more thing to try. And that was nitric oxide, pumping nitric oxide to the bloodstream to open up the veins and put her on intubation instead of ventilation. And I was torn. Do I do it? Do I not do it? And I said, before I do it, let me talk to her. Let me tell her that if she wanted to go, this is the time. She can leave now, because I don't want to keep her in the body when she doesn't want to be here. because I was now beginning to understand there is something about death and me being alive. Something is happening. I can't fully explain it, but I know that the process of death is, it's like digging me up from the dirt. It's like I thought I was alive, but actually I wasn't. So death is doing this so that I can actually become alive. But I couldn't explain what was happening at the time. And I talked to her for about 5 minutes, and I said, you are very tiny. You are here, and I'm worried you will stay here because I'm keeping you here. My pain and my tears and my frustrations and my fears might be keeping you here because you don't want to leave and hurt me. But I would rather you leave than stay if I'm going to cause you pain. Because if you stay for me, but later on in life you have medical issues, because nitric oxide and intubation could hurt the body for the long term. And I left. They intubated her. They put on nitric oxide, and she didn't leave. She didn't leave. She hung on. Such a small thread, and everybody was shocked. They kept looking at the numbers. They kept looking at the screen. We don't understand. She's holding on. She's not getting better. She's not leaving. She's just staying there. That was the little hope that I needed. I said, if you wanted to leave, you would leave now. So you are holding on, and I'm going to use this tiny moment to find out what is happening. And at that moment, I realized perhaps I'm being told something. Perhaps it is something about me that I needed to shift. I went from blaming myself for it, blaming my body for it, to saying I was born with this body as it is. I had no control over the kind of body I'm going to have. So there must be a reason why I'm in this body. 2 weeks later, she began to have a lot of improvements. But again, they said she might have to have a trachea. She might have to be opened up here for her to be able to breathe and eat at the same time. And I was like, that's it. You are being selfish. You are keeping this tiny body here, this life in this tiny body here. And it's painful. She's having blood taken every 3 hours. She's having, checkups. She's being resuscitated at least 3 times a day. She just goes. She went through a stage of when newborn babies are born, they release meconium. She released meconium 3 months after birth, and nobody understood what's happening. But that was the day she released meconium after being resuscitated. I went back to her and said, please leave. I'm begging you to leave. The pain is too much. Your tiny body doesn't have any veins anywhere for anyone to draw blood. It's reached a point where they had to put what do they call? They had to put a surgery here so they can have a pipe to continuously take blood from the main vein. And she sneezed. At that moment, she sneezed, and her numbers on the screen went crazy. Her oxygen just went from high up the roof, and her blood saturation, everything just suddenly went back to normal. Almost as if we've all been dreaming in the past few weeks of seeing her lifeless. And then I knew. She's telling me I'm choosing to leave. Where's your patience? I'm staying here, yes, but I'm going to leave. And when the doctors came to take her off the machines, she was on intubation. 2 days later, she's on a CPAP. For those who are familiar with NICU, there's a CPAP thing. From intubated through the nose to being on the CPAP, and then to being off the oxygen, just one tiny little tube for her to help her to breathe. When that happened, I said, I have finally learned. I now have learned what is it that death has come to teach. It's come to tell me, without me, there is no life. If I don't come, you will not realize you're alive. You will be existing. And you will actually fear me. Many of us, we fear death because we don't want to leave the body. We are too attached to the pleasures and the desires that are attached to this body. If somebody tells you now, leave your body, my gosh, no, I'm not leaving my body. But actually, it had come to tell me everything that lives will live, everything that is alive will eventually leave. If it doesn't live, it's not alive. it has to die to show that it was actually alive at one point. And it's crazy because I remember telling my dad when I was younger, I said to him, I'm kind of curious. I wonder how it's going to feel for me to leave my body when I'm an old woman and I can just lie there and leave. And he said, very morbid. And it was kind of crazy for me to say that. When I experienced it, I understood.
Okay, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Before I ask this question, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the network thing is actually a boon. It was Nelly who was supposed to really interview you today, even though it was planned that it should be me. I am looking at the different situations. But anyway, let me put my question this way. Here in Ikhambi, we usually speak about the fact that it was necessary for Set to kill Osa. That Osa to ascend. You see, Set is called the ladder of the gods. If Osa doesn't die, Osa doesn't become the great ancestor that we so revere today. So in Ikhambi, we usually say how these different natural forces are interrelated and are interconnected in such a great way that the ones who are celebrated, who are all beautiful about life and joy and all that, they are absolutely necessary, but also the ones that are dark and shadowy and painful to comprehend. Just like Set, I was telling people on Twitter that the face of Set is not a face for you to love, but you need him so that you can learn something about yourself. So your story is reminding me exactly of that. But the reason why I was saying now that Nelly, it was necessary for Nelly to ask you some of these beginning questions. I'm telling the question now to myself also. See, my children, my triplets, were prematurely born. And the stories that you are telling me, even though it was not exactly the same, but that whole thing of the child being in an incubator longer than you expect. And also, I always had this dream of natural birth, doulas, and all this beautiful natural stuff. But life had other plans, you know? Nelly's child didn't come exactly on the time that we had planned. I was hoping it was going to be my birthday on June 11 or my triplet's birthday on June 13. Nelly was thinking it was going to be a girl, but it's a boy. So these things we do not plan, but they are here to teach us something about ourselves. What do you think it is teaching you?
It is a reminder. It was a reminder of why I came into this body. I had forgotten, because it was only after these experiences that I began to venture into the spiritual path that I went into. Now I wanted to understand. Okay, I talked to someone, I talked to something, it did answer, it did understand. I talked to a tiny baby, a baby that people say does not understand, that they are not able to see. But this human being sneezed when I said, how does a tiny little premature baby sneeze at that particular moment when I said, because I am responsible for this pain, gotta leave. I can handle the pain. And she sneezed and she was off intubation for the next 2 days. I was learning that do not have too much ownership, to not have control, to not think that this is mine. It isn't mine. It is an experience. I am merely here to have this life experience, not to own any of it. And for me to experience darkness, I would be able to see the light. If I'm just walking around thinking I'm in the light, then I'll never be actually see the true light. So that's what this experience came to teach. Remember why you came back into this, why you are in this body.
As you were telling your story, and I'm starting to have like a brief understanding of what my mother went through when I was born. I know Menzi made reference to my son's birth and but both of my children, they were born through assisted birth, which is why I've made a conscious decision that I'm not going to have any more children. It's too traumatizing for me, through that. But as you were retelling your story, it sounded more like my story because I was also born 3 months prematurely. And I was at the neonatal ICU for like, in an incubator for like a month, a full month or even longer. By the time when my mother saw me, like I was a grown baby, guys. And so I'm just thinking, because my mother was the one who actually almost died instead of me. I just came out of my mother's body. They put me in the NICU, and my mother was the one who almost died through her experience of giving birth to me, you know. And I'm like sitting here and I'm like, wow, you know. Wow.
Life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life. Hasai has the hand up. Do you want to add something, or do you have a question?
Oh, greetings, Sanbonani Dosha.
Brother Zamalek, you must warn us that it's you with these changing names. You must warn us.
No, no, I've told you last that it is me. I had a problem. And I even was the and peripheral red tapes that has to deal with technology. So I had to change a name and use a different name. That is Herusari. Anyway.
Oh, here's that. Okay. Do you have a question, comment, or any additions, brother?
Oh, I have a question to my lady Nancy. I was listening carefully to each and everything she said. And my question was, okay, how do you perceive that? I understand Taoism has the perception of immortality, but you did identify that you were Christian.
Okay, I can't hear the rest.
Something that is dark, or
My perception of death.
yes,
Yeah,
is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Okay, my perception of death is a transition. It's not the end. I'm saying it is not the end because of my own experiences. I knew that the children, I don't know how I know it, certain things, there's just no explanations for how I knew. I knew that the children that I was losing, they are not gone. They're going somewhere else. There's something else that is happening that I have no idea of. I knew this even as a Christian. And I never had the idea of immortality during that time. My understanding now is when I die, I will not talk about other people because I cannot impose what I understand on other human beings. My understanding is when I die, depending on where I am as a spirit, where I've evolved as a spirit, I might be able to come back in a physical body, or I might choose not to come back. This is what death is a transition. Life is energy. Energy never dies, it only changes form. So I might change into something else. I might change into another human being, a man perhaps, or a tree, or whatever it is. Any form of energy that I feel will help me understand a part of my spirit that I need to evolve in. That is my view of death.
Love that. Love that response. That any form that would teach you best. Like I try to imagine sometimes, like if I came back as a tortoise, or if I was a tortoise before, or in fact, I would prefer a turtle rather than a tortoise because of the relationship with the deep sea and the and also the earth at the same time. You know, I would like to be a being that is not always in the same plane, so to speak. You know, a being that is able to understand, you know, different zones. You know, even better, a bird. You know, those seagulls that can go into the sky, but they can walk the land, but they can also deep dive.
Yes.
Yeah. But getting back, can I just ask you a question, like, Jay, just to move away a little bit from these issues of death, even though they surround us. There's a song by Common that says, death is around us, you know, to teach us something. I want to ask a question about how did you come up to Kemetic yoga? What brought you to Kemetic yoga specifically? Did you go through different kinds of yoga before you landed on the path of the ancient Kamau or Kamtu, as I like to call them?
Yes. So when I came to China, which was also an experience in itself, that's why I say death it's transformation, because everything that I've been learning in the past few years of following the spiritual path, I have done it. I know I've done it. Anybody can call me crazy, but these things, they're coming back to me almost like I have a memory of them. And when I got to China, I met Brother Onk Chavalala. I think a lot of you know him. And when I met him, I was a confused being. I was saying, I'm experiencing things I don't understand. I'm hearing drums in the streets of China and there's no drum beating. I'm going crazy in a foreign land. Should I go back home or what should I do? And he gave me a USB cable, a USB stick with tons and tons of text on it. And he said, you read them. And he went back to South Africa. I read some of them. I didn't read some of them. I met Tantra. I met scary stuff. I met things that shook my foundation. And eventually I formulated a path that felt okay for me, that felt I was learning something. Then I began to do Tao yoga. I did yoga as a form of just to be mobile and keep active. Then I realized I'm so connected to this. Then I went into doing Tao yoga. And then when I became sick, Brother Ong suggested Qigong. Then I did a Qigong workshop. I loved Qigong and I stayed with Qigong. And then I did Hatha yoga at his studio. Then I loved Hatha yoga. So I kept going through to different studios. I did Ashtanga yoga and then I loved it. So then I was like, I am loving all of these yoga practices, all of the spiritual practices, but I don't connect. There is something that is missing because I'm feeling like I'm being taught a foreign cultures. And I'm being taught a spiritual path through a foreign culture that I can't connect with. And that is hindering my growth. And I messaged Brother Onga, said, do you perhaps know someone who knows a yoga system that is related to Africa in some way? And then he said, yes. And he gave me Mama Urs. Mama Ursula was my Kemetic yoga teacher. And when I talked to her, I was like, wow. This is what I've been looking for. Not only is she a trained Sangoma, but she understands yoga, because when we are going through our traditional way of healing, for example, Bungaka, and all of that divine in way, it feels so disconnected from yoga. It feels so disconnected from Qigong, from Tao yoga, from the manipulation of energy and all these other things I'm doing here. Now she helped me make that connection to understand it's one and the same thing. So now I can practice yoga in a way that I, as an African person, can actually relate to. So that's how I came to Kemetic yoga.
Wonderful. And it seems you are helping others to practice too. Tell us more about that.
Yes, so I have created an online instructional video classes, and the purpose of the reason I created instructional videos is because of distance. Teaching online is great. I've done it in the past few days or past few months, but I find that there's a lot that is missing. I'm not able to adjust because Kemetic yoga is not about the body. People think yoga is acrobatics, you're sitting this way, but actually is the movement of energy within the body. It is the cultivation of energy. So by creating these videos, I am helping those who want to learn yoga, but to also understand what's this? What is this thing inside this body? And when you're doing yoga, you are able to feel it. So the instructional videos, I have opened an online course program on Teachable, and I uploaded videos. It's a 7-class program. I think it's about maybe an hour long per class, where I'm teaching all the African Kemetic yoga asanas, the breath work while you're doing the yoga, And how do you connect? Many of you might be familiar with the microscopic orbit. How do we connect that and keep the body, the energy within the body? But also, how do you transcend the physical experience, not be stuck with your physical? So I added guided meditation at the end of each yoga session. And I'm trying to reach to as many African people as I can. There's a reason for that as well. We always talk about Africans, we've gone through trauma. We've gone through, we carry a memory, a DNA strand within us that is somehow attached to trauma. It's not our history, it's our history being disrupted. So by doing this, we are trying to remind others, that's not your history. That trauma is a tiny bit of your history. Let's work on the trauma, now let's continue our history. And we can't continue the history if we were still hurt.
Thank you for saying that. That African history was interrupted. I think it was
Yes.
Baba Clark, Henry Clark, who said that. Said slavery and all that trauma. It's not African history, but it's an interruption of our history, because our history is very long and very opulent and glorious, in fact, and very long.
Glorious.
Yeah. So looking at the time, I would like you to share, perhaps, before you share your links with us, could you share also, Ashla, your teacher, your master teacher's details with us, so that we can share with the people of Ikhambi, and then we're going to invite the people of Ikhambi, the family, to join us again next week, so that we can continue our conversation. I'm not sure how far you spoke about the book, if at all, because I was struggling with my network. I like the title, Negotiations with Death. You know,
Yes.
did you guys touch on it at all?
Yes, I did touch on the book.
Oh, okay, that's wonderful. Okay, that's great.
So next week we will be continuing the discussions. Sister Nancy has engagements that she needs to attend to at 11. So we will continue the discussion next week, same time, 10. Hopefully next week there won't be any interruptions to our chats. But yes, we will continue the chat. Yeah, no load shedding, hopefully, yes. Sister Nancy, your contacts, or did we lose her? She's frozen on my side.
We need your contact and the contact of Ashla, Mama Ashla, who is your teacher. Yeah, she seems frozen. I think China has caught up with us. China has caught up with us, as well as the network. All right. Perhaps we can close, because she needs to go, and then...
She says she's still here.
She's still here? Okay,
yes.
But she's quite frozen. Okay, maybe let's give her a minute. And take any questions on Facebook. Are there any questions or comments on Facebook?
No, there aren't any questions on Facebook. If there are... Oh, okay. So she's still here. I don't know if you are able to see her comments, Brother Menzi.
If I can say, if she can share links, is there other website or a link or a number, or she said she uses Teachable. So if they can share a link with that, because I think she can hear us, but we can't hear her. So we just need links, her one, and also the great mother, Twitter. And then we can close. It was going to be nice to say goodbye nicely to her, but networks.
No, I think it's because we already made a commitment that we will release her at 10:50.
At this particular time.
Yes.
Yeah. I have to close by saying this. You know, Set, besides being disruptor and chaotic and all that, when it comes to timekeeping, Set is always on time to disrupt you, so that you can wake up to the things that you need to remember. But yeah, we give thanks to Set. Time is set. Time is set.
Why you say that? I wanted to close with the remarks that we don't have to see Set as a bad thing. Set is something that we all possess. We all possess ambitions. Set is ambitious person. So we all possess these ambitions, and some of these ambitions are destructive. So we need to just look onto the ambitions and write a step ladder, meaning look onto our egos. We need that ego. so that we can write it.
Thank you. You know what? No, thank you. What's this, brother Zamalek? Sister Nancy has shared where we will find the yoga classes. It's at teachable.com, Gaia Kinetic Yoga. Teachable.com. I'll share the link when I share the video as well. When Brother Menzi, you'll update the Facebook page. Yeah, the pages with the link. Yeah, and so, and with that being said, Mkhulu, ngicela ukubonga and give thanks to everybody that has held space with us today. Let's convene again next week. Hopefully, network and ESCOM will be on our side. I know it's set season, but you know, things we must guys. Good, everything goes according to plan next week. With Brother Menzi, yes, for gracing us with his presence.
And one more thing, please, as we close, Mkhulu Zamalek, can you please repeat his name and the meaning of it, please? I will tell you why next week. I'm asking. Zamalek, are you there?
Yes, I'm still there. You want the
Please
name
just
of?
give us your name in just, you've got 30 seconds, please. Just your name and the meaning of it.
The name that I written. Oh, Heru, it's obviously Heru, the sky god, the flying one. And then with the side, it's the infinite energy, the key, the Tao that she was talking about. And the Tao that she's talking about, that's the same thing. It means the high Tao. It means that, the high energy, the higher energy or the higher frequency.
So it's Heru sound.
Yeah, Heru side.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I want to, in our next conversation, I want to link Set with Heru, because we always talk about Set and Osa, but we want to speak more about Set and Heru, how they partner eventually after fighting very hard for many, many years. Give thanks and Isis to everyone. Have a good Sunday. See you next week in Healing.
Yeah.